Hi, my name is Michelle Mitchell, and I am here today for the Issues and Insight show. I am with Radcliff City Council, and today our guest is Murray Wanner. He is our planning official for the city of Radcliff as well. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Well, he is going to talk about the planning and building permits, zoning, all of that today to help us understand a lot better how all of this works. And so the first question I have for you, Mr. Wanner, is what led you down the path of doing this, and how long have you been doing it?
So I've been with the city of Radcliff since the year 2000,
Okay.
which seems like a long time.
Yeah.
It is. Been there a long time, and I didn't start out with Radcliff. Originally, I'm from Canada.
Okay.
Not everyone knows that.
Yes.
I went to school in Windsor, Ontario, across from Detroit, and I ended up taking a position in Florida for a little while. Did transportation planning, which was a lot of traffic counts, number crunching, spreadsheets. Wasn't really something that I saw myself doing for a long time, so it just kind of wasn't really my thing. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, in urban planning, which is where I got my degree, an urban planning degree, there's different specialties. You know, you can go into transportation, traffic, you can go into land use planning, you can go into an environmental planning, design, urban design planning. So there's different kind of specialties. Land use is kind of the most general.
Okay.
And that's what I wanted to transition to. So I ended up, I was offered the position with the city of Radcliff, okay, and I took the position, and I haven't looked back. So it's been a great place for me, and I was able to get into land use planning, which is looking at a variety of different things, zoning, subdivisions, site development, as in like, you know, you could have a new business and you have to review plans for the site for a new business. One that people have been talking about a lot is the new Starbucks that we had go into Radcliff. So that was kind of an area I wanted to focus on. And being with the city of Radcliff has allowed me to do that. So what I wanted to talk about today was our permits in the Economic Development, Planning, and Building Department.
Okay, that's really important to get that information out to educate us and let us know how all that works, because there are a lot of questions. You probably get lots of questions. I know I've contacted you many times about those type of things, and so I'm sure you get even more questions on a daily basis. So let's go ahead and get started with that then. Can you tell us a little bit more about who would get a permit like that?
Okay, that's a great question. So to give you a little background, we launched a permits portal program actually last October.
Okay.
And it's where now people can file permits online on our webpage at www.radcliff.org. Okay. So you can get on there and you can click on the permits tab under our webpage, Economic Development, Planning, and Building, and you can access any of these permits. Now, in terms of who might want to, that's a great question. Who might want to apply for a permit? That's the first question when you go into the permits portal that it asks. It says, essentially, identify yourself. Who are you?
Okay.
Are you an owner, being a property owner? Are you an applicant? You're not an owner, you're just applying.
Right.
Are you a contractor? It could be a variety of people. So, you know, really, certain permits do require certain people to apply for them. There are some that do require a legal signature. Okay. Say, for example, if you're going to annex property, an annexation permit, you do have to have the owners sign and consent that they're not going to contest or fight the annexation later, because state law allows a person to contest an annexation with us in a certain time period of it occurring.
Okay.
Zone map amendment, if you're rezoning property, or like a conditional use permit or a variance, it's tied with the property forever in perpetuity. So like once it's approved, it's tied to it. So we do have to have like an electronic signature in there of the individual, in those cases, on those forms, of an owner versus just an applicant, because the legality of it being tied to the property and being so specific and impactful, I would say.
So we want to make sure they're following all the proper steps so that we're not having to backtrack or tear it out or
have to
have issues later.
Seeking a signature later, say, oh, well, we noticed the applicant signed it, but we actually need the owner to sign it, so we're going to need you to resubmit. So we've had a few instances of that, but because generally most people, though, do fill the forms out, right? Our biggest issue since we've launched is people trying to fill out, needing multiple forms and filling multiples out in one submission. So we've had to tell people, hey, you know, a separate form for each application.
One. Yeah. So they can go online, but they can also come in as well. Is that correct? Okay.
They can come in. They can fill out a permit in office. We do have hard copies on the webpage still because not everybody has access to a computer.
Right.
So there is a means to pick up a hard copy application in our office, or download one off the off of our webpage and print it out. So there are other options besides just the portal. But the portal is nice because you can even access it off a mobile device, like a phone.
Oh, wow.
So that's been a really big improvement for us, I think, because it's just easier for people.
Yes,
people
super convenient.
Yeah, they're familiar with like a digital world now where they want to fill something out on their mobile device on the go. They might be sitting in a drive-thru or something, you know, McDonald's or
doctor's office, something like
doctor's office, you know, waiting room. So they say, well, I can do this while I'm right here, and I don't have to take time out of my day to go to City Hall and fill out a permit.
Right. Perfect. So 3 different ways. You can come in, get the hard copy, print the hard copy, or do it through the digital access that you guys have provided. Which, yes, that's a great upgrade to have for our community. So.
Yeah, I think it was a really big improvement, and I'm super happy that we took the time to actually upgrade our permit system. So that was a huge thing last October, but I also wanted to kind of go over the different categories of permits that we have.
Yes, let's do that.
So we have 3 primary categories of permits: building permit applications, zoning permit applications, and electrical permit applications.
Okay.
Building permit applications, they're pretty straightforward. It could be residential, non-residential, institutional construction, you know, like churches, for example, things of that nature. So residential being, you know, you need a building permit because you're putting a deck on your house would be a simple one.
So tell me about building permit applications.
Okay, so building permit applications can cover a number of different categories. We could have a residential building permit application for a new home.
Okay.
Or if someone wanted to put an addition onto their home, like say a deck or something, they'd need a residential building permit. We have non-residential for new businesses. Say they're building a new Walmart or a pet shop, you know, pet store like Petco. We just had pull a permit for non-residential. Then we have institutional building permits for, you know, things like churches, schools. So they're categorized under different categories. But then also, so that would cover building permits.
Okay.
Now, other permit classifications are zoning permit applications. And I think before the show started, we counted how many applications we have under that category. We have 18 applications there. And I'm going to quickly go over them just so everyone knows what they are. We have a permit for a sign, a fence, a driveway, a tent, a mobile home, cell tower, annexation, rezoning, subdivision, subdivision waiver, development plan, variance, conditional use, encroachment, environmental and geological hazard, easement authorization, new business, home occupation, and an appeal.
Okay. So I see a lot of these sheds or she sheds or tiny homes that people are doing. Which would that permit fall under for that person?
That would fall under residential classification.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So we get a lot of permits for signs, obviously, because we have a lot of businesses coming into town that are opening. So new business applications. Then we have almost every new business, you get a sign permit.
Yes.
Even if they're going into an existing structure.
Okay.
Now, if they're remodeling the said structure, if they're taking out walls, adding walls, maybe structural improvements, that may also trigger a building permit.
Okay.
So as you can see how this works, and then perhaps maybe they've got an area in the back of the business that they want protected where they store some materials. Maybe they pull a permit for an accessory structure back there or a fence. So you can see that just one single business opening, you can have a tremendous amount of permits generated.
Yes. For the sign, how many for business are you allowed?
For typical commercial business, it's 4 total. But yeah, the number of permits can be pretty extensive, and generally a single development will actually warrant more than one permit. So
That's
for example, so to give an example of the new Petco that is recently under construction, or the Starbucks that just got built, in those cases, or also the Taco Bell in the south end of town that's brand new, they would file for development plan, which is basically a site plan. So they show where the building goes on the site, the number of parking spaces, curbs, landscaping, handicap parking or accessible parking, signs for those things, sidewalks. They're going to show all that on their development plan. But that is one aspect of the plan. Say they have to split the lot off, for example. Maybe they have a larger lot. Then they're going to have to apply for a subdivision application. So that one development could be, and maybe it wasn't even zoned right to begin with, so they had to rezone it. So you may have a rezone application. Then there could be another example of needing a variance for something if the proposed development cannot meet all aspects of the zoning ordinance. So you can actually see how many permits can truly be generated. That is just on the zoning permit application side. They have to get a development plan for a new business, for example, before they can get a building permit. So then it takes them into a building permit stage, and then any new electrical will have to be inspected via an electrical permit. So you can see these permits kind of are all connected to each other, and we could literally have one single development or one project and having multiple permits that staff has to enter in, process. Sometimes we have to take them before the Planning Commission or Board of Adjustment. Some of those go to the City Council, like a rezoning. So really, these permits, you can end up having several just with one specific project.
And there's definitely a lot entailed with the doing this. And so a person trying to start a business or something along that lines, you're not going to move in that day and then next week always jump right into opening. So it's very good that you have these permits and information available online, as you said, and where can they go for that information again? So
again, just so everyone knows, it's on our website at www.radcliff.org.
So they can go on and get that. So building, zoning, electrical, and even more. But it's all a protective measure to ensure that we get businesses or whatever they're doing, a home, up to standard, up to par, legal, and structured correctly to be able to move forward and be successful. So
yes, a lot of these permits, they don't all have a cost associated with them. Some of them have no cost associated. Not every community can say that, but Radcliff has been pretty proactive in trying to keep permit costs down. So a lot of people might be fearful, thinking, oh, it's going to cost me a lot of money. In fact, it will save you money because you can have potentially your project permitted, inspected, And in some cases, some of these don't cost you anything. So it's pretty important to get the permits. When in doubt, call us.
Right.
That's what we're there for,
Yes.
trying to help people out.
I see you guys out all the time riding around, people calling, asking for help and wanting assistance. You guys are really good at getting back with our residents here in the community, so definitely appreciate that, and to ensure that everything is being done correctly and following through. You're very helpful. It's not a thing of, what you're doing is horrible or incorrect. No, these are the steps that you would need to follow. It's an easy flow, accessible information online, and you guys are very helpful in providing information too, even if it's not toward your department, other departments that work in conjunction with yours. So it's very helpful to have your department available to us in the community to help us get to where we need to be.
I appreciate that. We take a position of wanting to protect people's interests and to help people. We want to see people have a successful project,
Yes.
no matter how big, no matter how small the project is, because every project is a big deal to the person who's
Right.
building it.
You're correct.
It could be something as simple as a temporary banner for an opening of a new business, but that project is meaningful to someone. Even just like a small vinyl 4x8 banner or something of that extent.
Okay.
So everything is important. It doesn't necessarily have to be a new Kroger or Supercenter or something of that level. So we're there to help, and anytime people need to call on us, that's what we're there for.
Well, you answered that one of those questions, which is why is having these permits available for people. And you mentioned, you want people that are doing these projects to be successful, and it doesn't matter how big or small. And, for your training and expertise, the why also covers what other areas?
Why in terms of what exactly?
As far as why these permits are put in place to begin with.
Oh, well, my opinion is, well, for one, there are regulations. The building permits are required through the Kentucky Building Code. So in order to issue a building permit, the construction has to comply with the Kentucky Building Code. Zoning permits, we have a zoning ordinance that's been enacted.
Yes.
And also a zone map. So separation of uses, essentially it's protecting people's property rights. So, and making sure people have equality in that. A fair system where everybody's rights are protected equally.
Right.
So there are codes that warrant why you might need a permit, for example. So mainly it's about protection of people and health, safety, and welfare, and also people's rights in terms of property and enjoyment of property.
Okay. So when should someone get these permits, a building, a zoning, or electrical permit?
My answer would be, if you're not certain, call us.
Okay.
It's better to ask for the permit than to assume you don't need it and
True.
then find out later.
Very good. That's very good advice.
Let me give you an example. We've had fences where people put up a fence, and we do have a regulation where the structural side of a fence in a residential neighborhood has to face inward.
Oh.
The support structure cannot face outward to your neighbor. A lot of people said, well, I want the pretty side to face in. The neighbor calls in.
Yeah.
Or our building inspector or code enforcement officer might be out and about, sees it, calls in, says, hey, they've got half this fence up and it doesn't meet the city zoning ordinance.
Okay.
So then they get a permit. Well, there was no cost with that fence permit, and we processed them pretty quickly, but to have to remove a fence or fix a fence after it's been put up incorrectly, that's a huge cost.
There we're talking about cost there.
Yeah.
So some of these questions, are the answers for that on the website as well? That some people frequently ask questions?
We've got some information about permitting and, in what instances may you need a permit, but if there's anything that's unclear, we just say, call us, email us. We get a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls. We've got great support staff in the department who'd be willing to help every day.
Okay, you do. Well, Mr. Murray Wanner, do you have any other comments or things that you would like to say to our audience today?
I think that pretty much covers everything. Okay. So I just want to say thanks for having me again today.
Well, thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
I'm Michelle Mitchell with Issues and Insight, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.